Great. And please give those films a big round of applause. So at this time, we're going to begin our Q&A. I'm Erica Rubin, a programmer here with Big Apple Film Festival. So I'm going to invite up our directors. So I'd first like to invite up the director of Coffee and a Donut, Carrie Patrick Martin. Come on up. So please walk around and come all the way to the front. I'd like to invite up the director of Open House, Philip Aceto. Come on up. And I'd also like to invite up the director of our feature film, We Only Know So Much, Donald Lardner Ward. Come on up. Okay. And also, if there's anyone you'd like to bring up with you as well, any of your
I don't know if
actors.
you, Michael, I don't know if you want to come up, Michael Rose.
Donald,
too,
can you
I don't
move
know.
over here?
Do you want to come up?
And if you guys could just move to the
And
front.
Carrie, or do you want to?
Damien, let's bring Damien up here. Damien Young, you have to go around that way. Noel, do you want to come up here?
We're saying Nissa.
And Taylor Rose is here somewhere, I think. Will you come up here, Taylor? And who else is here from my film? Eileen! Let's get Eileen up here.
There's another mic.
Ned! Let's bring Ned up.
All right.
And Anthony. Come on up, Anthony. Sorry, I have like 75 people.
All right, so everyone just move up to the front, please, so we could see everyone. So I'm going to start with Coffee and a
Lorraine.
Donut. Ah, Lorraine.
Sorry, one more, Lorraine.
That's okay, Lorraine. All right. We're good, right? All right, so I'll start off with Coffee and a Donut first. Can you please tell us what inspired you to write this film? I know you said you heard a story, and if you could tell the audience a little bit about that, that would be great.
Well, I have a good friend whose dad is an immigrant. Well, not really an immigrant because he's from Puerto Rico.
Okay.
But yeah, he told me this story, and I was really moved by it, and I felt it was in the times we're in right now. I really felt that people needed to hear this story, and he gave his blessing to write it, and then I got a lot of support from a lot of people, and here it is.
All right, great, and it was a great story. And for Open House, the same thing. The character in this film was so fascinating and multi-dimensional. Where did you come up with the idea for the story?
Well, it's based on a feature script that I wrote maybe 5 or 8 years ago, and I decided to make a short version of it, but make something. I wanted it to be a standalone film also.
Yeah, and it definitely was.
Yeah, that was important, not just to be a proof of concept. But I guess I was just fascinated by. It's interesting because it was before the refugee crisis was in the mass media when I was thinking about this character, and
Okay.
before sort of Trump's America, whatnot.
Right, right.
But I think he germinated from an idea of, I grew up in the suburbs and sort of middle class, and there was lots of sort of contradictions. I actually went to this school
Oh, wow.
that
Okay.
was shot in. And, but I was just really wanted to create a story about someone that we sort of pass judgment on when we read a headline. Just say, he's a monster, a label,
Right, right.
So I wanted to create a story that sort of demystified labels.
Okay.
Because the guy is labeling this kid, obviously, also in the movie. So
Right. Yeah, and you definitely achieved that, so that was great. For Coffee and a Donut, the lead was spot on. How did you go about finding the right cast?
You make friends. Here.
What?
How did you end up in the
Sorry,
project?
how do I find them? Well,
Yeah.
I'm part of what do we call it?
Film community.
A film community where we all meet and we bring in our scripts, we bring in our rough cuts, and we get feedback. So, and these two wonderful people are part of it.
it was played so dynamically and complicated. How did you find the lead for that, and for the rest of your cast?
I mean, I was lucky, in many ways, I think,
I think it was something called Skype.
Oh yeah, Michael Rose and I Skyped. Yeah, that was intense. I think, well, I casted Roger first, and I was so excited when his submission came in.
Okay.
And then Carrie, I was incredibly blessed. Michael was very hard to find, someone that could sort of create a character where he internalizes all of this trauma,
Right.
and just tells it with his eyes. And so, so many people were coming in and they were just playing it. It was just out in the open. And
Okay.
I really needed to keep that, the audience guessing what this guy was going to do to have the surprising, inevitable ending.
Right. Yeah, it was perfect. Thank you. Okay, so now we'll move to our feature film. So Donald, I want to ask, I'm going back to the casting. The family dynamic in this film was so engaging and believable. Even from the beginning of the film, it felt like a family right away. So, how, number one, did you start with the main lead, Jean Tripplehorn? How did you go about securing her for the film and really the rest of this amazing cast?
Well, I think it first started with the material, which is why I can't believe I didn't invite up the most important person here, Elizabeth Crane, who wrote the book, and that it's based on,
yeah.
and she co-wrote the screenplay with me. Would you please come up here, Betsy? As Betsy makes her way up here, I will say that this was a book that I read, and Betsy and I were friends for many, many years, and this was her first novel. She'd published, a couple of collections of.
I swear I'm not stomping.
Okay, of incredibly well-received short stories, and this was her first novel, and I happened to be looking for something that could be done on a tiny budget, and I read this book that she wrote about this family, and the family really kind of felt very real and interesting and unique, and so that was the thing, and then then it was about trying to find the actors that could play these people, and
Right.
it's always you always want to get that first person, and then you sort of build around. And Jean was a suggestion from another old friend of mine, Ben Stiller. And
Okay.
so once we had Jean, it was really about trying to find the perfect husband to play opposite her, and Damien Young, who plays Gordon, came to me through the casting director Nicole Arbusto, who works on a lot of low-budget movies.
Right.
And we just were so happy that he was available and willing to do it because they were great
Yeah.
together.
I mean,
And then it was just sort of filling in. Taylor Rose, who plays Priscilla, I met on like one of the last days of casting. And I just, as soon as she came in, I was like, oh, this is definitely her. And then Loudon Wainwright III, who's a famous folk singer-songwriter who played,
Correct.
he was a suggestion also from Nicole Arbusto, and I just met with him in a bagel shop on the Upper West Side, and, after he read the script, and asked him if he'd be willing to do it, and he said, yeah, I'll be Theo. and then the Virginia Robinson, who plays his mother, I'm sorry to say, passed away this last year. She was 95 years old when we shot the film. It was
Wow.
really hard trying to find those different generations, somebody who was believable as the mother of, the grandfather. And then the kid is a superstar, famous kid now
Yeah,
in
I was
Stranger
gonna bring
Things.
that up, right?
Yeah, Noah Schnapp was just a kid who came in, with a bunch of kids, and I just liked him. And a year after he did this, he was cast in Stranger Things, and is
yeah.
now more famous than any of us.
All right, thank you. That actually, I had a question about the novel. Obviously, then there were no issues in terms of securing the rights for the novel then.
Well, it was pretty easy. I called Betsy up and said, I'd love to option your novel. I have no money to offer you. And And
All right.
I said, but if you're, interested in screenwriting, maybe we can, write the screenplay together, and that might be an experience that would be, positive or beneficial to her, and it worked out great. She was a great collaborator, and my biggest fear was like you adapt somebody's novel with the writer, and you worry that they're going to be so precious and not want to cut
Right.
anything, and it was the opposite. And she's like, I did my version, basically, like.
So she gave you free reign. Well, not free reign, but yeah.
Pretty much. She's like, I'm kind of sick of this book, let's try to make it into something else, That's not really true, but she was really open about it.
Great. And the area where you chose to shoot the film, in New York, it almost seems like that was a character within itself. It was so prevalent throughout the film. Do you feel that was, another lead character in the film as well?
Well, definitely. It was, I really wanted to get that kind of melancholy fall kind of thing. And also, when you're making a film like this, we used the SAG and WGA ultra low budget contracts for $200,000 and under. Right. And so when you're doing a feature film and with all these characters, you have to try to save money any which way you can. And I happen to have I spent a lot of time on the East End of Long Island, and I used to live out there. And so I know people who own restaurants and, who have houses. And so all that stuff was mostly donated.
Okay.
So it was a place that I had resources, and I knew I could call in favors, and also had a feeling and a look. I didn't want to identify it as the Hamptons. I just wanted it to feel like a Northeastern kind of fall somewhat.
Yeah, it definitely had its own character. So. All right, thank you. At this point, I want to open up any questions to the audience. So anyone out there have any questions for our filmmakers or cast up here on stage? Anyone? That's great. Great question. So the question is about how many days did it take to film the movies? So maybe we'll have each one of the filmmakers answer that question. We'll start down here.
Coffee and a Donut was shot in 1 day, 10 pages.
Wow. That's pretty darn impressive.
It was like 3 takes, done.
Yeah, that's great. That's awesome. Yeah. How about for you guys?
We took, it was 5 days, right? Yeah, and then one rehearsal day, the first day, yeah.
Wow. All right, great. And
15 days, and we did do 3 pickup reshoot days several months, almost a year later, and was trying to get everybody back together and get the resources to shoot more was challenging. And also, we wanted to go back and shoot in that house, but when we drove by, we realized it had been flattened. It was gone. Like,
oh, wow.
The house had been sold, and whoever bought it just leveled it to put up like a fancy McMansion. So one scene that we picked up was just a little piece where she's coming into the house in the beginning. She's getting out of her car, and she has the groceries and the mums, and so that's a flat. We just built a flat and stuck it on somebody's front lawn.
Wow.
Parked the car in the background. It's a different white station wagon. It features in a couple of different spots because we couldn't. The old one was broke down and was junked.
Wow. All right, that's great. Great story. Any other questions? All the way in the back?
Well, it's funny because this is coming from the actor who played, this is Raven up there.
Okay.
Sorry, Raven, I forgot to call you up. He played the role of the boy that was behind the dumpster.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, so Raven, so your question is why the long takes and why did it culminate to the table?
Yeah.
In the tipping point?
So why was the table setting the tipping point for the character? Yeah.
Well, I guess, you know, a big thing for me was the work. For this character, it was about the work. You know, that's his one virtue, is that, you know, he goes through this repetitive process of working and working and working. He's very interior. And so for me to have the refugee character in the movie, or the immigrant, it doesn't really say, be part of his process of working at that point in time. And there's a moment where he sees that this kid's actually giving him the attention that he wants from every single person that he moves around the school and doesn't give him the attention, especially the attention of his boss, you know. There's a moment where he sees that tension, you know, that attention from him, but it's ruined when he places his attention on the boys playing basketball, you know, the winners.
Right.
And so the tipping point is the fact that he is placing his attention away from this guy's work and just on someone else, you know. And so they're not alike in Michael's eyes. They became different, you know. And it's sort of that sort of displaced pent-up anger that he sort of projects onto Roger's character, you know. But it happens because of the work, you know.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'll take one more question. One more question down here in the front.
It was inspired by a true event, yes.
Ah,
Oh, no. That part is fictionalized. It's just the ordering the same thing. I should be clear about that. Yeah, it's the ordering the same thing, which I have since found that a lot of immigrants have similar stories.
it would be interesting to think if the characters did, you know. That would be nice, maybe a sequel.
Well,
Okay.
in the first draft, they were romantic, but that got tossed.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I have one last question for the filmmakers. Where can we see your film next? What are your future plans for your film?
We're trying to finish a deal for distribution with Lionsgate Films, and I think it's primarily going to be, you know, a digital and cable release through them. I don't know that there's going to be a theatrical component, which is why I love film festivals, because it's probably the only place you're going to see a little film like this on a big screen. So
Right.
very grateful to be here, and anytime
Thanks.
anybody invites us to play it in a theater, we're happy to come.
All right, great, thank you. How about for open house?
Well, we're still submitting to festivals, and hopefully we'll see some more screenings in the next, you know, 6 to 8 months.
Okay, great, thanks. And for coffee and a donut?
We're also submitting to festivals. We've been accepted to Latino Film Market, which is playing in December, so
Okay, great.
keep an eye out for that.
Great, awesome. All right, thank you. All right, so at this point, we're now going to begin our awards presentation. So first of all, I'd like to thank all our filmmakers and everyone up here. So if everyone could please give them a big round of applause. And thank you. So you guys, everyone can have a seat. Thank you so much. And I'm going to hand this over to the director of the Big Apple Film Festival, Jonathan Lip.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so I want to thank everybody for attending and being here and part of our festival. Thank you so much.